Sick and tired of your love-hate relationship with wine?
Welcome to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. Hi, I'm Coach Ruby Williams.
And I'm Coach Susan Larkin.
We're two former wine lovers turned alcohol freedom coaches, exposing the lies about alcohol.
And giving you, our listeners, the tools to break free so you can feel lit.
And when you're lit, you'll feel healthier, freer, and more in control of your life.
So relax, kick back, and get ready to feel lit alcohol-free.
And don't forget, grab a copy of our wine-free weekend guide after the show.
Hey. Good morning. We are so glad that you are back with us here at the Feel Lit Alcohol-Free podcast.
Hello.
I'm Coach Susan and my lovely co-host, Coach Ruby, and we are thrilled to be here with you today.
Jazz hands.
Yay. So, yeah, you crack me up, Ruby. We have so much fun recording this podcast, and we just love connecting with our listeners too. So we love it when you send us questions or when you just interact with us and say, hey, I listened to this and I really got a lot out of it, and we are enjoying all the comments. So keep them coming. And
can I share a quick story?
Yes,
my cousin is listening to our podcast every week, and she texted me when she was listening to Coach Tabin on mammograms. And she goes, listening to your podcast, just scheduled my mammogram.
Oh my gosh,
and I'm like,
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Good. That's what we were hoping for, right? And I had just come from mine. So, which I got a clean, good report back. So that's good.
Well, good.
Yeah. Well, so today we have a question from one of our Facebook group members and one of our listeners. So I am going to read the question and then we're going to dive right into the topic today. And the topic today is, how can we support and encourage a loved one who is sober curious? So this is our question from Renee. How can I support and encourage loved ones around me who are sober curious but still have many struggles in their life, and alcohol has taken over many roles because of that? Yeah, so we know that story where all the jobs we've given alcohol and then unraveling that. So Ruby, what's your story around that?
Yeah, I would love to share that. Well, first of all, this is so common. I think maybe everyone listening and everyone might know someone who's struggling and they're in denial. I know I was in denial for years and years and years. The average is 7 years that you can be in that stage where you're aware, and you're aware of it. You know it deep down that it's probably the alcohol, but you're I can function and I'm going to work. And so, but other people might see it. So what Renee is saying is how can she help say, we were talking about what if it's an uncle or, somebody that's struggling, and you can tell that maybe they might be drinking more than they should, or, so, what I want to start with is the difference, or let's talking about addiction versus habit, right? So an addiction, let's start with habit first. A habit is just a tendency, a usual manner of behavior. It's involuntary, and it's just, you do it frequently, like brushing your teeth. That's a good habit. It becomes an addiction when it's compulsive, chronic. You have the psychological need for, say, a substance, or it could be a habit, a behavior, like scrolling on your phone. It could be a substance like alcohol, sugar, another drug. And really the difference is if you know it's having a harmful effect. Okay, that's the real big difference. So coffee, you were joking, I have a coffee addiction. Well, is it really harmful? That's debatable, but if it's not really giving you a harmful, effect, then I wouldn't say that's an addiction, a true addiction. And the other thing is, if you stop taking it, that's where coffee might be an addiction. If you stop taking it, you experience withdrawal or some sort of anxiety or irritability. And I think I do have headaches when I stop drinking coffee. So maybe, yeah. But back to alcohol. Yeah. So a lot of times people just are not aware that they need to change. They are not aware of the problem. And it's really important that they have to kind of want to make a change, or at least be curious, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Will you share a little of your story, Susan?
Yeah, sure. What I love about Renee's question is she does say that friends who are sober curious, right? So they are curious. So there's a big difference if somebody is interested or not, because if somebody's not interested, like it's really hard to
Not listening,
Yeah.
not listening.
Yeah, but if somebody's worried about it, like I was right away, I knew I was drinking more than, I knew what the weekly amount was 7 drinks a week for women. And I knew I was over that. And I was immediately concerned when I just felt like I needed it. Yeah, I think that's the difference too, like when you feel like you need it. And I think when you use alcohol for medicinal purposes, let's say, or for coping with life stress, you start to become dependent on it. So let's use the word dependent versus addicted, right?
Okay.
So do you depend on alcohol to help you de-stress at the end of the day? Do you depend on alcohol to cheer you up when you're in a bad mood and, you to pregame because you're going out? Do you depend on alcohol to be there at every event? And if it's not there, you think, well, this is going to be boring and horrible. Just sort of coming up, I like the word depend, just seeing, do you depend on it for something? Are you using the substance to change the way you feel? And then that's part of the question that she shared too, that she said, but they still have many struggles in their lives and alcohol's taken over many roles because of that. Then that clues me into thinking that these people that she's sharing about are using alcohol as a coping mechanism. And for me, when I started using alcohol as a coping mechanism, that's when it became problematic, because I started to depend on it, and it becomes more addictive when we're using it as a coping mechanism, because we've created this neural pathway of need. And when we get that dopamine hit, it tells us, oh, do this again. This helps. If it helps you de-stress at the end of the day, do this again, even though our prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, might be like, I think I'm doing this a little too much. Then our subconscious brain is like, oh, no, but you need this. You need it. It helps you. So actually, you think you're helping yourself, right? Your subconscious thinks it's helping you. And that's where we create the cognitive dissonance. And that's exactly what started happening. And you feel the push and pull. Like, I shouldn't drink tonight. And that's where we wake up in the morning and go, okay, it's Tuesday. I'm not going to drink tonight. I drank too much over the weekend. And then you have a stressful day and just, I don't know, your car's just like on autopilot driving to the liquor store on the way home from work. Or you call your husband or like, hey, let's meet at, our local pub and have a couple of drinks before we go home, because you feel like your subconscious is sending you messages that like you need this to de-stress. So the first step is just becoming aware of this cycle that's going on, right?
Yeah. And you just really clearly, this is how it happens, right? You become addicted. Your pleasure center of your brain it's got like overstimulated, and eventually your actual subconscious actually starts to think you need it for survival, like almost at like a survival level. Like I might, your subconscious might even be saying, I might die if I don't drink alcohol. But your conscious, your prefrontal cortex, when it's online, it's like, no, I said I wasn't going to drink today. Yeah. So you described it so well, Susan. Thank you. For me, it was about then creating rules. Like the next, I would create these rules. Yeah. And I would be like, okay, I'm only going to drink, on the weekends, or I'm only going to have 1 bottle instead of 2. Cause I was up to like 2 bottles. The tolerance just keeps increasing, you guys, wherever you are on this, trajectory, the trajectory only keeps going up, you guys. So whether you're sober curious, in a gray area drinker, a binge drinker, a heavy drinker, like it just keeps going up because so I break my promises every day, pretty much every day. And that's like I felt like beating myself up, right? Like I was the cognitive dissonance and making promises like, okay, today I'm not going to drink, definitely not going to drink. Then I'd have a crazy work day, lots of stress. Okay, I'm just going to have one glass of wine. That was my thing. One glass of wine. I'll stop again tomorrow. I'll try this again tomorrow. But tonight I need the one glass, which then turned into bottles. Yeah, it just felt stuck. So what I want to say to Renee and everybody who's listening is that the people that are in addiction to whatever addiction, they don't want to be stuck. They don't. I didn't want that. It wasn't fun. You think, people in addiction, they're having fun drinking. I was not having fun in the last many years of my drinking. I was actually miserable, very miserable. Yeah. So let's just talk about I'll go to the basic question, like what can you do and say to your loved ones? This is the real question. And I want to start with compassion, compassion for them, for whoever it is, a friend, a spouse, maybe it's an adult child, maybe it's a grandchild, maybe it's, it could be a teacher, it could be anybody, everybody, anybody can have addiction, anybody. And it can be one thing that can tip you over. One thing in life. Maybe you're a normal drinker. We've done episodes on that, but maybe you can handle it. And then something happens in your life and all of a sudden you're addicted. You're using it. So kindness. The person drinking alcohol and addicted is beating themselves up already. They truly are. I remember every day I was just beating myself up. I had that term alcoholic, which we've also done an episode on, but alcoholic, like I thought that was the only thing. And I didn't want to admit that to myself, to others. I felt so much like a label. So honestly, they are doing the best they can with the tools they have, and the tool that they're using to cope with life and stress and whatever is, emotional pain is alcohol. And it's just the drug of choice, right? It just happens. And then again, the tolerance increases and it's not their fault. If I could say anything, if to have compassion and kindness for them and know that it's not their fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more. What do you think,
there's
Susan?
more. Well,
yeah.
I think, just helping them understand that alcohol is an addictive substance. That is, again, like you said, it's not your fault. That alcohol creates a thirst for itself. So, and the science, I would help them dive into the science, just saying it's not your fault. Actually, your brain is normal. So if you're thinking there's something wrong with you and they have a problem, and what does that mean? Just explaining that there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain is actually doing what it would do in response to an addictive substance. I usually use the analogy of tobacco. Like if you started smoking every day at 5 o'clock, one cigarette even, because it helped you de-stress, would you be surprised if you became addicted to cigarettes? No, because we've been taught and we understand that tobacco is an addictive substance. The problem is the awareness and the education around alcohol just isn't there. We've been taught that it's an either or. Either you're a person who already is predisposed and you're an alcoholic, or you're normal. And then there's no in between. And so just explaining the gray area of alcohol use disorder or disordered drinking, and understanding that that is a normal process if you use alcohol as a coping mechanism. And then again, with the compassion that you talked about, and just saying, hey, why don't you just learn about alcohol, learn about what it does in your body. When we were talking about this beforehand, you mentioned the Huberman Lab podcast where he goes into depth, but he is also really good at explaining really scientific-y topics in layman's languages. But he goes in depth about how alcohol affects every part of your body.
Can I share a little story about that too?
Yeah.
I started being an alcohol freedom coach and getting alcohol free when my son turned 21. And I've been talking to him about this stuff. He's like 21, 22, 20. Now he's 26. But he said to me, what really got his like he didn't listen to me because I'm his mom. I mean, he listened a little bit, but it was the Huberman Lab podcast. So if you have a college age student, someone in college, like really wanting to learn, I really recommend the Huberman Lab podcast around alcohol, because my son said that was the thing that finally, like, you know, the thing that sunk in. Yeah.
Yeah. When you learn the science, it just starts to make sense. Then I think it's a great place to start is just to create awareness. And you've heard this before in the podcast, but we start with awareness and just saying, well, just start to be aware of when you want to drink, why you want to drink, what effect do you want the alcohol to do? And once people start creating awareness around it and go, oh yeah, I am using it as a coping mechanism, or I am using it in this way or that way. And as you start to understand how alcohol works in your body and start to learn the science of what it feels like when you're, you know, that alcohol is a stimulant and a depressant. So you learn how it feels when the euphoria, when your blood alcohol level is rising, and then you can feel the itchies when it's falling, and you can feel the increase of the dynorphin and the anxiety. That's the itchies, right? And that's why we want a second glass. Even just noticing, how much time between my first glass and even wanting a second glass, and just like, you know, getting an experimental mindset and like putting on your investigative hat and just going, I'm going to learn everything about alcohol that I can and learn about myself in my response to alcohol first. Just create awareness, no judgment, no blame, shame, or rules. Just kind of just take a couple weeks to just like you would do if you were working with a nutritionist and they said, hey, here, do a food, you know, a food diary, do an alcohol diary, see when do I use it? Why do I use it? How much do I drink? How do I feel when I drink? How do I feel the next day? Just create a ton of awareness around it and learn about the science behind alcohol and how it works in your brain and body. And there's some great resources, books that you can use. Why don't you share some of your favorites? Ruby?
Okay. Well, the obvious favorite is, and I give this book to people all the time, is This Naked Mind by Annie Grace.
Yeah.
And then the second one is The Alcohol Experiment, because it lays out a 30-day break.
Yeah.
I mean, those are really awesome books to start with. It was game changer for me, and I think for you too, Susan. Like, it was just like the two things that I loved about the book are that I didn't feel alone. I think when you're in addiction, you know, there's the phrase that we use all the time, the opposite of addiction is connection. And to finally not feel alone. Like Annie's first words are, it's 3:33 in the morning and I'm laying there in bed again, you know, beating myself up. Why did I drink alcohol again? And I thought I was the only one, because that was happening to me every single night. I was waking up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and beating myself up. So that, like, and then, like you said, take a break, right? So the Alcohol Experiment book is great. I also have a take a break program. Susan also has programs. So you can also, you know, reach out to one of us. But what other books are your favorites, Susan?
Well, I like William Porter's Alcohol Explained. It's super sciencey. I have it right here. You have it too. People enjoy that one. I think for men too, because a lot of men have loved Annie's story, but it is a woman's story. And so this is written by a man, and it's just really sciencey. It's pretty, just stick to the facts, kind of way sometimes men's brains works. And so I think this is a really great book resource. And also a couple clients of mine have really liked Alan Carr's, oh gosh, what's the name of it? The Easy Way to Control Alcohol.
Right. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And that when Annie uses this explanation from his book and credits him, which is the idea of the pitcher plant.
Ooh. So
yeah.
good.
And, you know, when we're drinking, we're like the little bees buzzing around, drinking the nectar of the pitcher plant. But then as we go deeper and deeper, and we slide down the pitcher plant until we're in the bottom where we're just stuck, right? And so it's a really helpful way to think about and understand how this happens. Because a lot of times, I know I was stuck going, how did I get here? What happened? And really blaming myself, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, that I let this happen to myself, you know what I mean? That I, was just really blaming myself. And so when you really shift the blame to alcohol, because it's an addictive substance, and again, in society, we do not talk about alcohol as being addictive. It's only addictive to those people.
I know.
It is starting to become more and more mainstream conversation. Because I just remember even having this conversation with my husband. He's like, how come we didn't learn this? Yeah. Listen to this. Oh my gosh, I have to share this. I almost died. There was a DARE program, like a fundraiser, happy hour. I'm like,
oh my
gosh, in our town. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Why in the DARE program, we talk about all these other drugs and nobody talks about alcohol in the DARE program. Wrongo. I mean,
oh my gosh, Susan. Yeah, I see these things all over. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yoga and happy hour or whatever. But I want to make one more point that I forgot, that people that may or may not have a problem with alcohol, and if they're in denial, they might be curious. But my biggest, we're back to like, what can you do, is lead by example. Do not preach. I remember if someone was to tell me flat out, like, Ruby, I think you have a problem, I would be mortified. I would deny it. I would, like I said, if you can't see, I'm putting my fingers in my ears. Like I would not want to listen. So if you are alcohol free, or starting to get alcohol free, you can lead by example. I mean, that is like probably the biggest thing. Like, and just drop in little nuggets, plant seeds as much as you can. I feel better alcohol free. I'm sleeping better. I lost weight alcohol free. Look at my skin. Like little things. Maybe you leave the book out. Get one of these books we suggested, and like just leave it out. For them to like, or give it to them as a gift, like, and that saying something like, this helped me, like if it did help you, one of these books. So, or any book that
or a quit lit book that you enjoyed, like listening to somebody else's story or a podcast, or just say, oh yeah, this is what helped me, or just raised my awareness. And starting with an experiment, using the experimental mindset, and I think is really helpful. Just saying, oh, well, maybe take a break. You want to take a break with me? Do Sober October with me, do Dry January with me, and like read this book and understand more about alcohol. It's just something we don't really know that much about, and see what they say. Be really light with it. Because if somebody doesn't want to change, you can't change their behavior. And being the preaching about it isn't going to help. So.
They have to. There's the readiness for change. You have to believe you can change. You have to be 100% responsible for the change. And the time is now. And have a little hope. Like, give them hope. That's where the being an example can be a good one. Yeah.
And that they're normal. That they're not abnormal. This is a totally normal thing. Alcohol use disorder is on a spectrum, right? And they don't have to be in one camp or the other. They can just be, hey, I want to explore my drinking. That's all it has to be.
And just listen, ask questions like, how can I help you? Having empathy and compassion, again, and kindness, and just listening, and knowing they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt themselves. They don't want any of this to be happening, but it's happening. And it just kindness, compassion, they are doing the best that they can. I was doing the best that I could. And it's just, alcohol became a coping tool. Oh, this was such a good conversation, and so needed. What a great question. Thank you, Renee. You know who you are.
Yay. We love you.
Yes.
So Ruby, along the lines of being a good example, what are the things that you do regularly in your life, or you're doing lately, to feel lit and to, to show how amazing alcohol-free life is?
Ooh. Well, you mentioned Sober October. So in my yoga studio, I belong to a yoga studio, yoga and Pilates, hot Pilates. They're doing an October challenge where do 26 out of 31 days, you get a free t-shirt. But it's really just like, it's to get you to, so 26 times. You could double up. People have double up, but 26 times at least in the month of October. So yeah, I am
that's awesome.
doing hot yoga or hot Pilates every single day. And I'm doing it's been so much fun. I've decided to do it. For me, I didn't have a real transition between work and after work. I mean, I would finish my work day and maybe eat dinner, but as I mentioned in previous episodes, I would watch TV, and I was kind of like addicted to TV, to be honest with you. So I thought, okay, how can I change it up? So my yoga Pilates time is right after work. I do the 6:30 to 7:30 class, and it's made all the difference. Like, I'm tired now, I'm eating earlier, and basically, what does yoga do for me? I call it a moving meditation. All you do is you have to show up at the class, wear your yoga clothes, put your mat out, and just do what the teacher says. You don't have to think. You can totally relax. There's like a little bit of breath work in the beginning and a little bit of savasana at the end. But in between, she says, put your arms up. She says, do downward dog. Or he, sorry, I have both male and female, yoga instructors or gurus. And you just listen to your body. You get into your body. Where else are we into our bodies that much? So I love yoga. I've always loved yoga. I started doing yoga in college. It's been something I've done off and on, a major part of my life. And I used to do it probably drunk in the mornings, which is crazy to say. So it's just, I feel so good after yoga. I sweat because it's hot. I'm sweating. And it feels like I'm getting rid of those impurities. And then I take a shower. Anyway, do you practice yoga? I think you do. Yeah. Tell me about your yoga.
I do a little bit. I started trying yoga during my alcohol freedom journey. And so I call them yoga snacks. So I started doing yoga with Adrienne, which was online because it was during COVID. So we weren't going to any yoga studios. And I've only gone to like a studio yoga class a few times, but I would like to explore that, to do longer yoga sessions. The longest yoga session I think I've done is like 40 minutes. So I tend to use them more as a way to relax when I'm feeling stressed out, or early in the morning to get up and stretch and do a 15 to 20 minute yoga. I was doing 15, 20 minute yoga in the morning and then meditating. And so they were kind of combined. And I felt like the beginning, the movement and the breath helped to center me, so then I could just dive right into the meditation. But I notice that when I don't do it on a regular basis, even 15 minutes, my body needs that stretching and needs the breath and needs the relaxation. So I love it, and I would like to do more of it. And but I just want to say that even 15 minutes versus a whole hour class is beneficial.
Yes. So I'm going hardcore. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Susan. And start out. I personally think if you had the choice between 10 minutes a day or an hour class once a week, absolutely do the 10 minutes a day, but then add that hour in. No, I'm joking. But but I have a really sore hip and shoulder and actually ankle. And I could have had surgeries or different things, but I thought yoga could heal this. And it really does. But it's the consistency. When I notice the same thing, Susan, when I don't do my yoga regularly, whether it's 10 minutes or my hour classes, all of a sudden my arm, I can't even raise I'm stiff. So so yoga is like so healing for the brain, for the body, for the mind, for spirituality. They always put a little spiritual piece in it. I love the instructors. They're also wise. They like put in little nuggets in between, poses about the universe or something, or it's just beautiful. And then they end with namaste. And I love that. I think it means I see the God in you, or something like that. I love namaste. It's just like seeing it in others, the love in others.
Yeah.
So yoga, huge fan for life. Yeah. And it's something you can do for the rest of your life. Like, it could be something you do, and if you live to 100, you can do yoga. You can just do stretching. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so great. I love that. And it's inspiring me to.
All right.
I have a travel yoga mat that I bring because that's when I feel like I need, but it kind of still is bulky in your suitcase. But because I feel like, when I travel, I want to still get my 10 to 15 minute yoga snack in,
Yeah.
So it's really hard to do like on a towel or something, but
Yeah.
yeah. So good.
Ooh, one more thing. Fun fact. They are having a what do you call it? A challenge. The challenge, right? But
Yeah.
they're going to give T-shirts, and people could submit their T-shirt designs. And I submitted 2 designs yesterday,
Oh,
so I'll let you know.
awesome.
I know.
Well, I know you designed our shirts, so you're really good at that. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I love
hope
that.
they pick yours. That's
Well,
so
I'll
neat.
find out.
Well,
There'll be
know.
there'll be like what do you call it? A voting. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
let us
let the
know. That's
listeners
so
know.
awesome.
I'll even post it on the Facebook group.
If they pick your
if they
group,
pick,
yeah.
or I'll just post them too when this is live. So yeah.
Oh, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this episode was helpful for you. I know a lot of us struggle with how can we influence others in our life, our loved ones. So hopefully this will be helpful, and we hope that you'll hop on over to our Facebook group and join us there if you haven't already. And if you like to see our faces, I'm wearing these crazy glasses today.
I love them
because I just need them sometimes. And then if I start wearing them in the morning, I need them. I know it's hard when I take them off, then everything's blurry. So I'm wearing them. And yeah, you can see our faces on our YouTube channel if you want to actually see us and not just listen to us. So that would be great if you hop on over there and check us out. So have a great day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Feel Lit Alcohol Free Podcast. Do you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show?
All you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do 2 simple things. Leave a rating and review telling us what you think of the show. And in that review, ask us any questions you have about breaking free from wine or living an alcohol-free lifestyle.
That's it. Then tune in to hear your question answered live. Don't forget to grab your copy of A Wine-Free Weekend at www.feelitpodcasts.com.
And remember, do something today that will help you feel lit.
See you next time.